Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you the first part of the new series What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 1, I Never Got One. Ugh, why him? I grumbled as I saw the last 3 episodes of Modern Family, the last season. Even at the end, Alex and Haley's character development seems stunted, and Alex seemingly ends up with Alvin. Manny became insufferable, and Luke is Luke. The awkward, manipulative professor that used to be Haley's boyfriend? It's like the writers conveniently forget about that and set them up anyway. She did have a major crush on the guy when she was at college, but he chose Haley. Maybe it's a curse of the middle child kind of thing where they always received used things from their older siblings. I sighed and felt terrible for the kid. Even Dylan was barely okay in the last season. Phil said before the 20s is the time for them to make mistakes and get to know themselves. But surely a lovely and intelligent girl like Alex or a smart girl like Haley could end up with someone better. Welp. No time to complain. Time to start from the beginning again. I have been binge-watching it every single day, and have finished the run more than 7 times now. Maybe it became a comfort show for me because of the family love setting in the show, the one I never had. Ring ring asterisk. The MacGyver bell in my house rang loudly, snapping me out of my stupor. The simple setup was created by myself, and I fixed the bell on my walls before I connected it to the lower floor. I put my phone back in my pocket as I used my phone to watch shows instead of the plasma TV in my living room. That one was used for games and stuff. I grabbed my coat before I exited my apartment. I went downstairs and unlocked the door to the apartment directly beneath mine. "Good morning, Bella. How's your sleep?" I asked. The house owner was an old lady in a wheelchair who could only breathe using an oxygen tube up her nose. She only smiled in reply and looked at me with a helpless expression. The landlord of the 3-story apartment needed some care in her twilight years, so I get to live here cheap as long as I help her with some stuff. After taking care of her needs, we went to make breakfast together. Non. The Italian grandmother scolded me as I wanted to put some herbs in her sauce. Taste. First, I stopped stirring the sauce in the pot. The smell of the sauce that I was making made my stomach gurgle, and I wanted to have breakfast soon. Ciao Bella. You're killing me. I used some Italian wordplay that put a smile on her face. I put a spoonful of the sauce on a spoon and blow it gently before I give her a taste. She nodded in satisfaction after she got what she wanted. Good job. You, marry now. I helplessly showed a wry smile after she said that. Maybe in the future. Granny said with some concern, "You've been alone." Long time. I grabbed her hand gently. I have you, did I not? Bella removed my hand and pinched my cheeks. Non. Don't be alone. I'm gone soon. The immigrant grandmother couldn't speak a complete sentence after her stroke a few weeks ago. I have been working from home to check up on her since her family is far away. Don't say that, Noni. Grandma, you're going to live till 150. Believe me. Bella looked at me sadly. Only one person in the world knew me, and that was the grandmother in front of me. I forgot the garlic bread. I will stop by the grocery store later, I said, changing the topic. We had a fun breakfast together before I ran upstairs to do my job as a programmer. Luckily, my status as a senior developer allowed me to work from home as long as I reach my daily target requirement. I remembered what Noni said while I was typing. I never got a girlfriend, nor did I try to find one. I only got one-night stands with various girls, basking myself in the meaningless pleasures of the flesh. Even that was for only a short while before I stopped. My 20s were spent with me struggling to survive in this ruthless world as an orphan. Deep down, I don't think I can love someone as I have never received any love. I should talk about that in therapy, but who got the time? After 3 hours of work to finish the entire requirement of what was supposed to be a 10-hour job, I grabbed my bike key and my helmet. Noni. Garlic bread and tomato puree. Anything else? Buy some wine and meat, Noni asked. Then, she hesitatingly asked, can you check the post? My son. He will wire some checks at the end of the month. I widened my eyes at Noni. You can eat meat now? When did your teeth grow back? Noni threw her slippers on my head before I ran away to my scooter parked in front of my house. I never went to the post office to check what she requested. I knew her son had abandoned her a few years back, but she kept hoping to hear from him. The check was only an excuse for her to ask about her son. I picked up some oranges and groceries at the grocery store. On my way back, a sudden gust of wind suddenly makes me almost fall from my bike. What the hell is that? I opened my helmet visor and looked at the sky. It was as clear as ever. I scanned the surroundings, and I saw everyone looking at me like I was a clumsy man. So, freaking weird, I muttered and restarted my bike engine before I drove home. And that was it. That is the end of my life in this world. Truck horn blaring. Asterisk. The last thing I remember was that a speeding truck with its lights on crashed into my bike. I had an accident on my way home, and after a period of struggle to keep my consciousness intact, my world darkened. So, why the hell did I wake up in a white space? Is it platform 9 3/4? I scanned my surroundings, which looked like a clean train station, before walking toward the train boarding line. There were several people there, all waiting to board the next train to what I assumed was the afterlife. How long have I waited? The time here was a bit messed up. Suddenly, the train conductor arrived in his blue uniform and a cap to check everyone's tickets. Wait. Tickets? I hurriedly checked my pockets to find out that I was carrying nothing. The conductor moves down the line quickly as he checks everyone's tickets one by one, but I'm becoming more and more anxious as I keep searching for the non-existent ticket. Tickets, please. The Grim Reaper finally arrives at my spot to ask me. I seem to have lost my ticket. He said sternly, no ticket, no boarding. I know. But I never got a ticket. I almost teared up. No ticket. No boarding. He said and pulled me out of the line. The security guard came to apprehend me. Wait. Just tell me how I can get a ticket. I screamed and tried to break free of the security guards holding me by both arms. The security guard dragged me outside the train station and threw me on the floor. Ouch. I yelled out in pain as my butt hit the cold hard floor. Go get tickets. Then, you can board the train. I looked around on the empty white street with no one about it. How? I muttered. Wandering in the infinite space, I tried hard to find ways to get a ticket for myself. I'd been walking for days, maybe years, or just a few minutes. My mind was groggy, as if I'd fallen into the abyss. I keep walking to find the ticket booth, someone else, or anything else. Suddenly, I remembered Noni. Who is going to take care of her now? My mind was so preoccupied with the train ticket that I forgot about the people I'd left behind. Noni. I'm sorry. I started to sob as I walked aimlessly. Maybe she is still waiting for me to come back with the garlic bread. However, I am now stuck here with nowhere to go. I keep walking and crying until I lose track of time and who I am. I keep reliving my worst fear of Noni dying in that house alone. Unknown to me, someone tried to grab my shoulder from behind. But as I keep walking forward, the guy behind me keeps missing his mark. He wanted to call me, but the voice didn't travel in the white space unless you were face to face with someone. The same situation repeated a few times for a few hundred years, or maybe a few hours. As I sobbed while walking, suddenly, the same sudden gust of wind that appeared before my death appeared again, causing me to be pushed backward. What the fuck dash, I almost cursed the wind. It was the main reason for my death before, and because of it, I had to abandon Noni. But I didn't realize it came to me as a helper this time. Suddenly, my shoulder was grabbed by a hand bigger than mine. I turned back to see a man in a blue uniform huffing his breath heavily as he stopped me. Finally. I reached you. Ha ha ha. I didn't reply to him as my mind still felt groggy and in a haze. He dragged me back to the train station, and we entered his small office by the side of the boarding area. Countless files and papers were stacked neatly on the officer's desk. Neddy, my boy. It's been hard for me to reach you, the officer said and sat down on the table. I was invited to sit right in front of him, and he took out a file with my name on it from the stack of files. Edward Franzetti, born 1990, son of James Franzetti and Martha Knitting. He served me tea, which I graciously accepted. After drinking it, I can feel my mind getting cleared up. Sorry about throwing you outside. That is only for criminals and people without a ticket. But in your case, it's a bit special. How? I asked. Your ticket isn't here as it hasn't been issued yet, the officer said with a solemn look on his face. He lights up a cigarette and takes a deep puff. I haven't seen a case like this in ages. There are a lot of them in the Japanese branch, but not here. I don't care about the ticket anymore. What happened to Bella? My Noni? I asked anxiously. The officer released his cigarette smoke and started to take out another file. Usually, I won't bother to answer if anyone else asks this, but I will let you know about her for a favor between us. Deal? What kind of favor? I asked, eyeing the file in his hand. I'll tell you about her. You don't tell anyone about you being kicked out of the train station. Deal, I replied instantly. The officer smiled and opened the file for Granny. This is curious, the officer said. He smiled and flashed a look of reminiscence as he read the file. He even changed the way he looked at me. His stern face melted into the genial expression of a village elder. What? I asked. It said here your granny died peacefully in her sleep 1 minute before you died. What? I slammed the table and stood up. Calm down. Let's see here. With her karma points, she had gotten a first-class ticket to the afterlife long before you came here. I calmed down a bit, I see. So, she passed. She didn't suffer, right? I asked. No. The officer replied curtly and closed Granny's file. Telling me about her situation in the mortal world was already career-ending for him, not to mention telling me about Granny's situation in the afterlife. Now. To deal with you, the officer said. Unfortunately, as your time hasn't come yet, we couldn't tally your karma points here and have to send you back to the mortal world. He had a scheming look on his face, but I ignored it as my mind was focused on another matter. So, I'll live? I asked, a bit dissatisfied. You know, usually when people are told they can go back, they get excited. But not you, huh? The officer said sarcastically. Let's see. Yup. Truck again. What did the Japanese people do exactly that the truck culture spread even to another afterlife branch? The officer took out a pen and started to scribble at my files. I'll remove being crushed by the 14-ton truck and become a roadkill, to swerve your bike and avoid the truck. You will live without remembering what happened here. You also won't feel discombobulated as the afterlife energy will help you settle down in the mortal world for a short grace period. Do I have a choice? I asked. None. The officer replied sternly. Let's go to your station, the officer said and brought me to the train boarding line. Instead of a white train, a red train was waiting for me there. This looks ominous, I said, and as I looked around, I discovered I was the only one there. We didn't usually send people back, so I pulled this train from another line to get you home, the officer said. I boarded the train and sat by the window. The officer stood nearby to talk to me. As you stepped foot in both the afterlife and the purgatory, you may find something extra in your life when you get back, the officer said with a smirk. You're giving me a system? I asked teasingly. What's a system? The officer asked, intrigued. Nothing. By the way, I never caught your name? Me? I'm. The train horn bellowed, so I couldn't hear the middle part, but I heard the last part, the Grim Reaper. Omniscient POV. The train started to move and disappeared from the station. The Grim Reaper took his last puff of cigarette before he turned back. An armored angel was standing there as he turned. Why did you do it? The female angel asked. Do what? The officer asked innocently. You sent him to another world. The female officer grabbed the man's coat and lifted him up. The male officer took a deep puff and said, it was too late for him. He'd spent time in purgatory for almost 10 years. He can't go back, so I sent him somewhere else. You've violated the afterlife code. Do you know what will happen to you? The officer gently removed the female officer's hand. I know. Not only did you send him to another world, but you also made him reborn there. He won't receive his memory till his body is ready is not an excuse for your action. For my son. I will gladly spend 1,000 years in purgatory as long as he can get the life he always wanted. The life that I failed to give him. The male officer said as he fixed his collars. The female officer sighed in defeat and escorted the Grim Reaper to receive his punishment. I already had enough trouble when a first-class soul accidentally transmigrated as the wind. Now, this. I am sure I will get demoted after this. She murmured whisperingly. She sighed in defeat before she realized something. She glared at the grim male reaper. Do you have anything to do with that too? With Mrs. Bella reincarnating as the wind? The grim male reaper smirked and replied ambiguously, who knows? Edward POV. Ugh. My head. I muttered as I found myself lying in the streets. However, I found the roads to be unfamiliar from the streets I had my accident before. Hey, kid, watch where you are going. An old man yelled at me from his car. Suddenly, my head throbbed in pain, and I struggled to collect myself. I staggered a few times, and my sight became dim. It took me a minute to get used to the feelings. What the fuck? I cursed out loud. The old man was startled, shook his head, and drove off as he noticed I was okay. I'm 14? I am in California. Seriously? I mumbled. Nah, that can't be it. I looked around and found a convex mirror usually put in intersections. I looked at my reflection to see that I was really young again. Dude, that was sick. Suddenly a voice called me out from behind. I turned and widened my eyes when I saw the familiar-looking kid on a bike talking to me. Your skateboard flew into that tree there after you've done your trick. Luke Dunphy pointed at the tree nearby. I turned in the direction he'd pointed and saw a skateboard with a skull sticker on its bottom hanging in the tree branch. You'd inspired me. I will also fly to the sky after this. The 10-year-old Luke said excitedly. I became alarmed and quickly said, No, Luke. Don't. The accident really hurt. It wasn't sick at all. It was dangerous, and I'd been irresponsible. I probably will never skate again after this. The boy was stunned by the sudden proclamation. Based on my memory, I was the one who asked him if he wanted to watch a trick before this. For me to backpedal quickly was a bit unexpected for him. Luke. I heard a voice calling for Luke from afar. Both of us turned to look at the caller. A hot blonde MILF with scary eyes was calling for Luke from a street over. She shielded her eyes with her hand as the afternoon sun was glaring. Whatever, Luke said, losing his interest as I started to nag like his mom. He put his leg on the pedal and started to cycle back to his house. I stood there frozen for a while with the same thought nagging. Am I in the Modern Family TV series world? Chapter 2, Me. Now then. What am I supposed to do here? I asked myself in confusion. Then, I waited for someone to explain the situation to me. I waited for a while, but the only sound I heard was crows cawing at me from the trees. Apparently, my skateboard hit close to its nest, so I didn't think I would ever take it back. Ha! I looked to see the crow watching me with vigilance, so I walked away from the tree. So, there isn't any system to explain this to me? Also, wasn't I supposed to lose my memories? It added to my confusion that I could clearly remember the things from the afterlife and the train station. I took off my skateboard helmet and decided to walk home. I saw the familiar-looking house nearby, with Claire whispering something at Luke while looking at me. I wonder what's that about? I muttered. Damn it. Now that I am here, there wasn't a cutscene or anything to put me in perspective of what had just happened. Cutscene, Claire and Luke. Claire admonished her son, "What did I tell you, Luke? That thing is dangerous. You should be glad that you didn't fall to the streets. You may break an arm." Sweet. Luke replied, visibly excited. No. Not sweet. Dangerous. Claire crouched down and held Luke's arm. Sweetie, promise me you won't do something like that. Although reluctant, Luke couldn't object to his mother's wishes. I promise. Besides, now that he told me it hurts, I will not do the trick, now. Luke said with a slight pause before the last part. Claire didn't notice it and rubbed his hair lovingly. Who is he anyway? Claire asked. He goes to the same high school as Alex. His name is Edward Newgate. Luke replied. It was my first time meeting him, but he's cool. Newgate? Claire asked as she thought about the families around the streets she lived in. You mean that Newgate who lives in the messy house on the next street? With all of their plants dying and everything? Edward POV. So, I'm 14. That's just freaking great, sigh. In the last year of Franklin Middle School and will be going to high school afterward. Apparently, I am a loner in my school and a weird kid, also, kind of, dumb. After I sorted out my memories, which were not that many, to begin with, I became exasperated after learning of my new life condition. Basically, I am an unattended, entitled, a snobbish child that thought he was better than everyone else. Growing up as a musical prodigy overblew my ego. I also have a few memories of meeting Dunphy's daughter's duo, but it wasn't a good one. The memories confused me for a while. Am I Edward Newgate or Edward Franzetti? The memories came with their feelings, making me doubt my entire existence. I remembered all the things Newgate had gone through, his trauma, his relationship, his love. All of his was also all of mine. I think I am both now. I sighed and shrugged my shoulders. In this life, I once belonged to a happy family until 2 years ago. I didn't delve deeper into the memory of the time as I found myself getting harder to breathe. Childhood trauma, huh? My adult mind quickly comprehended the situation, but I wasn't an expert on this matter to deal with this on my own. I finally arrived at my home after a short few minutes of walking. I stopped at the front of the gray-brick suburban house that was in serious condition. Damn it! I refuse to accept the condition of my house in the memory, but it is really true. Why the hell did the people here leave this lawn unattended? I muttered as I stood in front of a detached, 2-story suburban home. The rooftop drain was clogged with leaves and other matter. The tall grass on the front lawn was dying, leaving a desolate, yellow-colored meadow in front of the house. Not to mention some stuff that looked like trash was strewn all over the ground. I knew that the house wasn't always like this. But after the mother in the house ran away from her family 2 years ago, the house's condition deteriorated as there was no one to take care of it. That was also when Edward started to reject everything and everyone around him and became a loner. We have a lot in common in this part, except I never had a family to begin with, and I was never adopted till I was old enough to leave the orphanage on my own. I know, right? With some proper care, it will be a beautiful home. Suddenly, a familiar voice spoke to me. System? I asked while tilting my head. The man standing behind me was confused, and no. He crouched and tapped my shoulder, causing me to turn. It's me. I widened my eyes as I looked at the man. Never thought the voice was from Phil Dunphy, the local expert on real estate. The man in a blazer was taller than me and had a kind expression on his face. "Why are you here?" I blurted out. It was so sudden that I didn't manage to plan my sentence ahead. I am the type to constantly think about my words before, but Newgate's experience in speaking like an equal to the adults, and looking down on them had left some traces in my existence. "I am from the open house next door," Phil said, pointing at his signs on the next house. "My name is Phil Dunphy," Phil said and held his hand out for a handshake. I grabbed his hand instinctively. He smiled at me and asked, "Are you interested in home care?" "Mr. Edward." I introduced myself. "Edward. Nice name. You're in high school?" Phil asked. I then realized that he didn't know that the house was mine. I guess he was bored from the open house and decided to look around. And now, he found a target to relieve his boredom, me. "Yes, I am," I answered curtly with a smile. I noticed Phil looked a bit helpless and started scratching his head as he looked at the house. "You know, this house was once very beautiful. There was a huge ornament on the lawn, but the kid inside it had broken it a few years back," he said and started to reminisce. "I don't blame Tiki, though. He does his best, in other stuff." Phil muttered. "Tiki, I guess that was his nickname for my dad in my new life." He didn't recognize me being Tiki's son, but I don't blame him. I could barely recognize myself if I looked in the mirror. And damn, I really want to look in the mirror. Although I was happy to see Phil, the sight of the house put me in a bad mood. I had a bit of a minor OCD growing up. Okay. I am lying. I have a major OCD growing up. It really irritates me now that I have to live in a place like this. "Mr. Dunphy," I called. What is it, Edward?" Phil asked, turning to me. "Being the local real estate expert in Southern California, do you know how I can fix the problems in this house?" I asked. "What is this? Are you doing a school project?" Phil asked. "Why did you call me a local expert?" "I'm not," Phil said with a smile. "I saw you on the bus benches before. Aren't you a celebrity realtor?" I asked innocently but was secretly pumping Phil with a feeling of elation. "Maybe. Just a little bit," Phil replied embarrassingly. He was excited to be the mentor to the young children. And with me buttering him up with the expert moniker, he graciously explained how to fix the house. I already had the skills. What I needed was information. Where can I find the tools necessary? The city's intervention in home care. How do I improve several aspects of my lifestyle? Trash pickup and recycling. We talked for 15 minutes in front of the dilapidated house. I nodded in agreement with most of what he explained. "Do you understand now? Wait. Shoot. Don't you need to write about this?" "Ah. I do," I exclaimed in sudden realization. "Go pick up some papers and meet me at the open house. I will stay there till 3 in the afternoons, so I can help you with your assignment." Phil offered. "Wait. I will be back in a few seconds." "No rush," Phil said. His smile turned into a poker face and then a sullen face. As he saw I walked into the house, he called a pigsty to grab my things. "Ah," Phil exclaimed in a sudden realization. "That's Tiki's son." Phil commentary. "The thing is, I don't know that he lives here." Phil leaned forward while sitting on his sofa. His face was sullen, and he shook his legs in nervousness. He said sadly, "If only I knew." Commentary ends. Edward POV. I walked into my house after I unlocked the door with the keys underneath the floor mat. Honestly, Newgate was too lax in his safety. The musty smell of the wood and unwashed laundry assaulted my nose as I walked in. The uncleared dishes in the sink and the full trash in the trash can almost make me want to burn down everything in this house and start over someplace else. Beer bottles were strewn all over the living room. Random socks and underpants were in creative places all over the house, such as inside the fridge and the toaster. There was a massive piano in the second living room near the backyard door, certificates of excellence, and trophies in a glass case near the piano. Musical prodigy at 9. Then, Newgate's life starts its downfall. I thought as I read the certificate label inside the glass case. As I peeked in the backyard, I wondered if my house was designed to be part of the forest. I navigated around the messy floor to get to my room on the upper floor of the house. Some broken steps caused me to stumble, so I need to fix that later. Now, let's see what I looked like, I muttered as I stood in front of a mirror. A skinny, 1.7 in height kid with wavy brown hair and piercing green eyes was staring back at me. The hair was very Zac Efron in the High School Musical. It was long and was combed neatly to the side. I sighed and didn't blame the kid, as the movie's hype was real. My shirt was an official Led Zeppelin t-shirt, so at least I had great taste in music. I turned to look at the rest of the room. A few music records were laid on top of my brown bed sheets and blankets. Newgate could handle various instruments, so they were also inside the room with a speaker. A blood-red electric guitar, drum sets, and also an acoustic guitar. He also has violins and saxophone inside the room. By the bed, a few Led Zeppelin posters, Iron Man posters, and even Twilight posters were hung on the walls. The first thing I changed in this room was ripping off the Twilight poster, crumpling it into a ball, and throwing it into the garbage bin. Luckily, Newgate hung up Bella's poster, not another Edward. Or I will start to question his sexuality. And, of course, no books were inside the room, I muttered in frustration. The date was April 2009, according to the calendar. Summer break would come in late June, so I have to suffer going to a school filled with prepubescent hormones, teenagers now. I groaned and let out a long sigh before I lay facing up on my bed. This sucks. Why do I need to live again? And why did I come here? Many questions were in my mind, but my OCD wouldn't let me think. Ugh, the fucking smell. I gritted my teeth in anger and couldn't hold it in anymore. I ran all over the house and opened all the windows and doors to lessen the smell. I took out a pen and a piece of paper before I ran away, leaving my house in a very dangerous state with the door unlocked. However, I am sure that with the current state of the house, even burglars wouldn't dare to enter. What did I do next? I ran to the house next door where Phil was. Edward. I don't mean to be rude, Phil said, loading up for an apology, but I cut him off. Can you elaborate? What do you mean that the house will be beautiful with some proper care? I asked hurriedly. This. Let's see here. First, you can start by. Chapter 3, Clean Up. Edward POV. So, can you drive me to the grocery store? I badgered Phil, who had just finished his open house. I have to go pick up my daughter after her cello practice, so I don't dash. What time do you need to pick her up? I cut him off again. I knew that Phil had a soft spot for struggling kids. That's why he used to take care of his neighbor's kid before. He looked quite reluctant before he agreed. I guess he was guilty about bad-mouthing my house to the owner's face. He was kind enough to treat me like an equal, and I felt a little bad for manipulating him, but if I needed to stay at that house, I couldn't let the situation there stay the same. At 4:30, Phil replied and glanced at his watch. That's fine. I will only be there for a few minutes. I need to grab a few things to clean the house. Your advice is great. I can't wait to use it. I buttered him up. He broke into a smile and said, okay. But I will bring my son with me. He loves going to the grocery store. It was the weekend, so the kids didn't go to school. Incidentally, this was also when my dad had the most jobs, so I couldn't formally meet him until Monday. Luke? I just met him earlier. I said. Cool. Then I don't have to introduce you guys. Phil said and walked to his car, a Toyota sedan. Wait. Don't you have to tell your dad about this? He asked. No, it's fine, I answered. You should pick up Luke first and then stop by. I need to do something first. Phil looked at the open wide door on my house and nodded before he drove away. Reluctantly, I returned to my house to pick up my money and took out the trash along the way. I peeked at the fridge to see nothing inside. Not even bottled water. The fridge was totally empty, except for some beers. I checked for my necessities and found out that I was living as if I was inside a camp. I need a new toothbrush and toothpaste. Luckily, my dad bought me an iPhone, no doubt as an act to buy my love, as he couldn't be there for me much. I listed the things I needed to buy and took some cash from my dad's hiding place. $200 will be enough, I think. I texted my dad about the expense, as I am responsible. I needed to change my shirt as I was sweating a lot while playing in the streets. I wore a relatively new gray shirt and some jeans after I took a light shower to clean the sweat from my body. Dunphy's house. Luke. We're going to the grocery store, Phil said excitedly as he took off his work blazer. He changed into a collared shirt with a horizontal purple and black pattern. From upstairs, Luke replied, "Okay. I just need to put on some pants." With a laundry basket in her hand, Claire showed up in front of Phil as he waited for Luke by the stairs. "Why?" Claire asked with a suspicious expression. "I just went to the store this morning." "Nothing. I just need a few things. And I need to get Alex SSSS." Phil stammered and couldn't continue. His head moved as he lengthened his last word, blinking a few times anxiously. Claire nodded in understanding and didn't continue her interrogation. "Just don't play too much at the massage chair, all right? I don't want you and Luke to be kicked out again." Phil watched her leave and then breathed a sigh of relief. Luke came down while wearing multiple pants at the same time. "Luke, buddy. That's awesome." Phil laughed as he watched Luke's tight legs. "If I wear enough pants, it won't hurt when I fall on the floor again," Luke said. "Yeah, but what about your elbows and your body?" Phil asked. "And your head?" "Ugh. That's right," Luke replied. Claire swooped in like a ninja before the situation worsened. "Luke. Only one pair of pants." She gives a stern look at Phil. "Honey." Phil avoided her eyes and turned to Luke. "Maybe next time, buddy." Edward POV. "Hey, you clean up nice." Phil smiled excitedly as he rolled his car windows down. With my hair combed and my face washed, I almost looked like a different guy. Instead of leaving my hair like Zac Efron with the bangs, I pulled it back and styled it to make it seem less childish. "Hop in. Let's go," Phil said excitedly. "Okay." I entered the car and found Luke in the back seat. "Why don't you sit in the front?" I asked curiously. "Haley won't let me. She will kill me if I do," Luke replied in a childish voice. "Also, this is your house?" Luke asked as he saw the horrible sight. "It looks like a horror mansion," he said excitedly. "Luke. Don't be rude," Phil interjected. No. That was exactly what I was going for," I said, as I knew Luke didn't have any bad intentions. But I couldn't let it stay this way any longer, so burn the sight in your mind before it disappears. I sat next to Luke in the back seat and pulled the seatbelt. "Nice job, buddy. Safety first," Phil complimented me. I couldn't tell him I was afraid of riding in cars, right? That's why I only had a scooter in my previous life. My heart always palpitates when I'm inside a car, but that feeling didn't transmigrate with me in my new life. "Thank God," I blurted out, and the feeling of relief washed me over. "What do you say, buddy?" Phil asked. "Nothing. Is the grocery store far away?" "We'll be there in 5 minutes." Quickly, we arrived at the grocery store. Luke and Phil played with the trolley, hitting each other with it while I continuously put some stuff inside it. I need eggs, flour, cooking oil, and milk, I muttered as I finished taking care of my necessities. A new towel, some fresh produce, and many cleaning utensils. Phil stood before the Uncle Ben cookie section and yelled, "No! Uncle Ben!" I played along, Peter, remember, with great power. Phil continued, "Comes great electricity bill." Ha ha ha. Dad, that's gold. Luke guffawed loudly at the side. Even I chuckled a bit at the joke. After a short time, put the stuff in the trolley. Buddy, you're sure about this? That's a lot of stuff. Phil asked as the trolley was half full. Yeah. I've been calculating the price in my mind. I think I will still have $1.79, $1.79 after I finish. Wait. You can calculate in your mind? Luke asked, his impression of me seemingly becoming much better. Yeah, buddy. Are you sure? There is also a tax factor. Phil said he, too, was impressed. Not by my mathematical skill but by my commitment to calculating the entire time I'm shopping. Also, $1.79? Are you sure? That's very specific. Phil asked challengingly. Want to bet? I smirked. Phil smiled and nodded slightly before he answered, okay. If you're correct, I will give you this hat. He pulled out a funny-looking hat from the counter and put it on his head. It was a white fedora with a big fake diamond on it, or at least I think it was a diamond. Not that. If I am right, then buy me some soda. I said, not wanting much. No hat? Phil reluctantly said. No, I replied decisively. We got to the cashier, and he started to scan my items. Come on. Come on. Phil muttered as he watched the price getting nearer and nearer to the target. $1.98 is the mark, Phil muttered. Even Luke started to chant beside Phil. The duo was really similar to each other. Cashier, final price is $199.71. Oh. So close. Phil exclaimed. Better luck next time, buddy. You only have a balance of 29 cents now. Wait. You need to minus $1.50 from my total. I said. Add that to my balance, and it will be $1.79. So, I am right. Buddy, it doesn't matter if you're wrong. As long as you bring enough money. Phil tried to comfort me, thinking that I really wanted the soda. Inwardly, he planned to go to a drive-thru after this to buy some sodas and some food for us. That's not it. $1.50 cause of the candy bar Luke put in the trolley as he thought no one would notice. I said. Luke widened his eyes while Phil stared at him. Luke. Is it true? What? Aren't we going grocery shopping? Mom always buys me a candy bar after. Luke gave excuses as he started to rummage through the plastic bags to get his candy bar out. He played the situation innocently in front of his father, who almost got fooled. Yeah. But you do it without asking. I can buy you a candy bar. You don't have to hide it from me. Phil said. It didn't bother me as it was only a candy, so before Phil scolded Luke, I interjected, it's okay. Consider it a payment for him. That'll work, Luke said hurriedly. Payment for what? Phil asked. Phil and I walked side by side in the parking lot to get to his Toyota. Struggling a few meters behind us was Luke carrying all the bags alone. I shouldn't have agreed to do it. Ah! Luke groaned as he stepped briskly toward the car. Come on, buddy, just a few more steps. Phil encouraged him as he opened up the car bonnet. I will never take a job from you again, Luke said angrily. I chuckled and said, really? Not even if the job is to eat cake? Luke became stunned and fell into deep contemplation. I chuckled and entered the car first. Oh shoot. We have to pick up Alex. Phil looked at his car clock and said hurriedly. Luke entered the car and shut the door. We shouldn't have done the massage chair, Luke, Phil said anxiously. The grocery stuff took only 20 minutes, and I knew what to buy. The rest of the time, Phil and Luke mess around in the grocery store. Phil quickly exited the parking lot. Edward, I will get you your soda later. It's okay, I replied. What about me? Luke asked, wanting some soda, too, especially after the heavy work he'd just done. You already have your candy bar. I teased him. He sulked on his seat and crossed his arms. I patted his head and let out a laugh. We arrived at Alex's music teacher's house in 20 minutes. Alex was already standing outside with her cello bag on the ground. Shoot. She looks angry, Phil said. He tried to take off his seatbelt, but it was stuck as he pulled on it too fast. No, 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 he muttered. Let me help Mr. Dunphy, I offered. Phil was still struggling with his seatbelt. Thank you, but I just need a few minutes to take this off. While he said that, I was already outside of the car. What? Phil mumbled as he watched me walk toward Alex with widened eyes. Hi. Alex Dunphy, right? I asked, pretending that I didn't know her. A bit stunned by the sudden development, Alex crossed her arms and asked me in a guarded tone, Newgate, right? Why did you come out of my dad's car? She did her hair in a ponytail and wore a long-sleeved yellow shirt. Her rectangular glasses really framed her face. She looked a bit older than the actress playing her in Season 1. If compared, she was similar to the Season 3 Alex right now. Your dad took me to the grocery store. You play the cello? I asked as I helped her pick up the giant instrument. Why did he take you to the grocery store? Alex squinted her eyes, even confused now. I smiled at her and opened up the back of the car. 'Cause he is a kind man, I replied and helped her load up the cello. The cello's giant size almost squashes my produced goods, but I don't care much about it. Food is food. It didn't matter if it was squashed. Alex walked to the front seat next to the driver and asked Phil hurriedly, but in a whisper, why is he here? He asked me for a favor. So, I helped him. Phil replied. You know he is a problem kid, right? Always late to class. Always absent. Rude. Alex complained. Really? But he is smart, though? Phil asked, confused. Smart? What do you mean by smart? He is as dumb as Haley and Luke, Alex said while rolling her eyes. If he is smart, that means Haley is also smart. I entered the car during their argument without them noticing. Mr. Dunphy, it's done, I said after watching them argue for a while. When did you get in? Phil asked in shock. For a while now, Luke said while laughing. Also, Alex, I'm sorry I was rude to you before in school, I said sincerely. Whatever. Alex crossed her arms and looked forward in the car to ignore me. Apparently, the previous me and she had crossed paths a few times in middle school. Inside the car, Phil suddenly offered, I will drop Alex off at the house, and then, we will go to your house. Luke and I will help you clean it up. I saw the clock, and it was almost 5 in the evening. No need, Phil. The deal was to bring me to the store. I am thankful for the offer, but I think you should go and rest. He has work today, so I didn't want to bother him anymore. He insisted, but I declined politely. Okay. If you are sure. Phil said, a bit sad. He liked spending time with Edward and didn't want it to end as he didn't know when was the next time he could do that again. Alex rolled her eyes aside as she thought her dad wanted to play with the neighborhood kid. We arrived in front of my godforsaken house in no time. You live in this dump? It suits you, Alex said sarcastically. She didn't come out of the car even when Luke and Phil were helping me bring the groceries inside. I leaned next to her door, and she rolled down her window slightly to talk, or mock. Come by a week later. Your dad taught me some stuff I will use to change this dump to a livable place, I said, wanting to have a cigarette in my hand. Why would I ever come to your house? Alex mocked. That's true. I agreed. I could handle speaking casually to Alex and the Dunphy because of their influence on me in my previous life. Although I'd entered their world, it's not like I was suddenly a part of their life. The reason why I was so comfortable with them was the familiarity they exuded in my very being. Maybe the stress of transmigration, or maybe reincarnation was too much that I hid the insecurity and intrusive thoughts by being with my comfort characters. I was also feeling a bit complicated inside. Now that they were no longer actors and actresses that were acting, what should I think of them then? Will they still be a sitcom cast that I love, or my opinions on them would change once I saw things that weren't following the sitcom's character sheets? I do wish life would no longer be complicated in this one. But it's impossible, huh? I thought. Alex was taken aback as I agreed with her words, and the silence was suffocating her. She thought that I was hurt by her sarcastic remarks and insults. The socially awkward teenager started to get anxious and wanted to make amends. She tapped on the window to call me, but I ignored her as I noticed Phil and Luke were done putting the stuff inside the house. I turned to Alex before I walked to my house. By the way, Alex. What? You're even cuter now. I flashed a charming smile as I said that. She was flabbergasted and decided to call me names, but I'd already moved away from the car. It's true, though. She was even cuter than in the TV series. Although similar to their actors and actresses, she and Luke also gained Claire and Phil's physical characteristics in the real world. I guess that makes sense because if they didn't look similar, people would have wondered if Claire cheated on Phil to get their children or adopt them from somewhere. Remember. The recycling truck will come tomorrow, and the garbage truck on Monday and Thursday. Phil reminded me before he left. I wanted to know when I would get the chance to meet them again. Back in the house, I wore an apron, rubber gloves, and a hair protector, and I held a big trash bag in my left hand while facing my worst enemy, the messy house. Let's do this. I put on my playlist, or the previous Edward album's records, and lost myself in cleaning the house. The liquor bottles in front of the TV, vacuuming the sofa and sucking up all the Doritos fallen to its crack, dusting the ceiling fan, arranging the magazines, and just cleaning for hours. Grolilialu *, sound effect LOL. My stomach let out a grumble as I continued cleaning the house non-stop. I was putting the laundry in the dryers when it happened. It's 9 o'clock. I should make some dinner. I muttered as I walked to the now clean kitchen. I opened the fridge and took out a steamed rice pack before putting it in the oven. I sliced some bacon and sausages before I prepared the onions, garlic, chilies, and other ingredients for fried rice. I blend all the mix together to create the seasoning. When the pan was hot enough, I poured a little oil and started to fry the onion mix. After a while, a long-lost smell of homemade cooking began filling the house's air, pushing the musty wood smell away. I put the bacon and the sausages and fried them together with the onion mix before I put in the rice. To top it off, I fried an egg and placed it on top of my fried rice. Lacking, I muttered in dissatisfaction as I continued eating. After filling my stomach, I resumed my work in cleaning the house. It took until 11 when I was satisfied enough to make this a place to stay for a night. I will continue cleaning the house, the backyard, and the front yard tomorrow, I muttered as I fell asleep on top of a fresh bedsheet I just took out from the dryer. Third-party POV. Stopping at the front door of the Newgate house, a tall, tan man in a ship's captain outfit staggered drunkenly as he unlocked the door. Edward's father finally came home after working for the entire day. His work as a cruise ship captain didn't allow him to spend much time with his son, even if he wanted to. What? Did Edward hire a cleaning lady? Ted Newgate rubbed his eyes as he saw the clean interior as he walked in. He double-checked to ensure he was in the right house and was greatly confused by the situation. Before he slept, he walked to the kitchen to get a can of beer. As he approached the kitchen, he saw a plate wrapped in tin foil on the kitchen counter. "Is that for me?" he asked. His son was already asleep, so he couldn't get an answer. He took the plate and sat on the dinner table before opening it up. There, a still warm plateful of fried rice was waiting for him. He took a spoonful of a bite and sat quietly as he ate the dish. Dunphy's house. Kitchen. So, you took him shopping? Claire interrogated Phil after Alex reported that Phil was spending time with a strange boy to her. Yes. You know their family condition. He reached out to me. How could I say no? Phil defended himself. Although he did something nice, he still felt guilty when Claire asked him. He didn't know why. Okay, Phil. Calm down. Claire said reassuringly. I am not mad. He didn't use your money or buy any dangerous stuff, right? Then, it's fine. Really? Phil asked. Also, he's a very smart kid. He can do long and complete calculations in his mind. No. Alex said he is dumb. Claire objected. Maybe he just didn't try before this. 'Cause, his mother ran away and everything. Now that he is more mature, I guess he wants to change his life. I want to be there to support him. He can add the grocery price and also factor in the tax, Claire. He is talented. That's great, but are you the perfect person for that? Claire replied with unconvinced eyes while sipping her cup of tea. A few meters away by the living room, Alex was reading a book while Haley was texting on her phone. Luke was sitting on the floor to watch TV. Suddenly, Alex turned to Haley and asked, when a boy tells you, you're even cuter now, what does that mean? Haley replied without looking up from her phone and being interested, it means he already thought I was cute before this. And even more so now. Also, don't talk to me. Oh, Alex exclaimed before she hid her face in the book. /N, I have till chapter 10 ready, but I need the editor's help to go through them first. I will upload them all by this Friday. Chapter 4, Karmic Gacha. As Edward lost himself in dreamland, he was taken to a pure white room with only a lottery-based box inside the room. Edward POV. Wait. What? Where am I? I asked as I looked around the room. There wasn't anyone other than me here. Am I dreaming? However, the situation felt so lucid that I instinctively knew I was not. I walked to the only thing inside the room, the little black box. On top of it, I found a paper file with the label, Karmic Gacha, on it. A lone match stuck to the document's first page, causing me to wonder what it could be used for. Gacha? I wondered for a while before I picked up the file. As I picked it up, I remembered what the Grim Reaper had told me. He said that I have a gift waiting for me or something. Is this it? I opened the file before me and started to read the document inside. The documents explained the gift I'd received from the Afterlife Corporation and a letter from them. I read the letter first to further understand my current situation. I don't know why, but I instinctively read the letter using Professor McGonagall's voice. Dear Mr. Edward Newgate, we are pleased to inform you that your connection to the Afterlife Karmic system has been successful. You're now among the few and the infinite customers of the Afterlife that could use the Karmic system to become an agent of the Afterlife. Please refer to the guidelines inside the files to study more about the method to activate the lottery processes and details about being an Afterlife agent. As you had accidentally wandered toward purgatory, we have prepared compensation for you in the form of a higher-level gacha that you could use in this session. Be warned. You can only connect to the afterlife during the day of life and death. Please make sure to understand the rules before exiting your first session. Otherwise, the afterlife system would be forced to shut down. That's all from us now in the Afterlife Corporation. We hope to not see you again for a very long time. Good luck. The letter felt ominous to me for a reason. I turned to the documents inside the file and took some time to read about them. An agent will use their karma to trade with the members of the afterlife for their memories, knowledge, skills, talents, or special abilities. That's nice. In turn, the usage of the skills and the deeds I did with them could either add to their wealth in the afterlife with good karma or plunge them down into purgatory with bad karma. As many afterlife members chose to gamble, I could only use the lottery system to draw out my prize for fairness between the members. If my luck is good, I can get their talents or special ability. If my luck is bad, I will only get a snippet of their memories. 1 minute of memory is too little, isn't it? As I read deeper into the guidelines, I discovered that the quality was split into 5 different levels: white, green, purple, red, gold. For example, a white memory gacha will only give me 1-minute snippets of the afterlife member that I draw out, while a golden one will show me their whole lifetime. The white prize was random, but as it increased in quality, I could get a specific training memory or essential information. The knowledge referred to the knowledge the afterlife member had in their lifetime. For example, if I have Batman as my gacha prize, I could receive his knowledge from his AI building or even techniques to pick up girls. The quality differed by the levels of draws I'd made, same as the memories. Skill was the combination of knowledge and memories. If I drew knowledge, I needed to make it into skills independently, but Skills Gacha gave me the experience and the knowledge to do it. It also helps my body develop the templates to achieve the skill, whether gradually or instantly, depending on my adaptability. Talents and special abilities are in a category of their own. Talents could give me additional IQ points or an athletic body and the necessary knowledge to grow it. While special abilities allowed me to get even an Esper-type ability such as telepathy, telekinesis, flight, and many more. If I get a dud one, maybe a talent to slip on a banana peel at a comedic hour or Esper's ability to make stuff stick on my body. I don't know if the lucky pervert's ability is a dud or a win. However, the draw rate for this type was especially low. Not even 0.1%. The day of life and death referred to the day I felt close to any of them. My birthday, the Day of the Dead, Halloween, and more. With a minimum of 4 times a year for the gacha, I looked at the piece of paper that showed my karma points and how to roll a gacha. Edward Newgate. Karma point, plus V 750, 666 afterlife bonus, V minus 0.5. 1 gacha roll, 6 karma points. 1 high quality roll, green and above 66 karma points. 1 special category roll, 666 karma points. 1 negative roll, 6/66/666 karma point. Afterlife ticket, not yet issued, but guaranteed one. What does that supposed to mean? I muttered as I looked at the last sentence. I referred back to the documents but needed help finding the related information regarding the afterlife ticket. Will my ticket from my past life be carried forward here? Not finding the answers, I checked my karmic points section to understand how I could get points for my actions. I received 84 karma points today, on the first day of my new life. The numbers excite me as I estimated I would have many karmic points during my next session. The karmic point would only be tallied in the white space. An average person would only have their karmic point tallied if they died and were brought to the afterlife. Only agents could know their numbers as a privilege. I received 20 points for cleaning my house. 30 points from my father, who knows what's that about. And the other 28 were from my interaction with the Dunphy. Advising Luke not to make a dangerous skateboard trick, 2 points. Apologizing to Alex, 5 points. The rest of the points were from my interaction throughout the day. However, I realized that the same actions would bring different numbers of points in my subsequent interactions with them. Same thing with cleaning the house. The next time I clean the house, it wouldn't give me any karmic points or less karmic points. To get many karmic points, I need to do something drastic, whether it impacts my life or the lives of others around me. It would be difficult for me as I don't really get out of the house much. After flipping the pages and rereading the terms of the condition multiple times, I sighed and finally decided to use my gacha for the first time. System, I want to use the gacha. Hee hee. I laughed to myself after mimicking the novels that I had read in the past. The lottery system here was more complicated than that. There was a form I needed to fill out on the last pages of the document. I needed to burn the paper to submit it to the afterlife communities. Luckily, the paper responded to my thoughts. I don't bring my pen here to fill it normally. I filled out the form for 1 high-quality gacha roll, 3 regular rolls, and 1 special ability roll, completely using up my karma points. I used the match stuck on the document's front page to burn my form. The paper caught fire instantly and disappeared. Seconds later, I heard the sounds of lottery balls coming inside the black box in front of me. So, I need to insert my hand through the hole and fish it out. I stood in front of the box and tried to peek at the balls through the hole, but I saw nothing. First is normal gacha. Please. I announced it as part of the procedure. Now I would get a normal gacha roll from the lottery. I inserted my hand inside the hole and rummaged around before pulling out a lotto ball. Oh! A purple one! I exclaimed excitedly before I read the prize on the ball. For fun, I covered up the writings on the ball on the one hand and read it like I was in a variety show. Knowledge. That's useful. Who is it from? I asked before I lowered my hand to read another sentence. Beth Harmon, who is this? I tilted my head and realized that it was stupid of me to create intrigue if I didn't know who the knowledge owner was. She could be any random person in the world. The full line on the ball read, Knowledge, Beth Harmon, Chess. /N, Queen's Gambit. I waited for a while, but the sudden influx of chess information didn't appear in my mind. Oh. I forgot. I will get it after I wake up tomorrow. I already predicted that I would have an intense headache tomorrow morning. I prepared for the second normal gacha before I inserted my hand inside the black box. Oh, a white one. I muttered in a flat tone. Although it was a white quality roll, it would be helpful to me later if what was on it was good. Talent, Leonard Hofstadter. IQ plus 30. The talent didn't come with additional knowledge or skills to grow it, as it was just an additional stat gacha. Phew. It's good that I don't get his talent for groveling. Also, is Leonard dead? That is quite saddening. I would like to know if it was the same Leonard Hofstadter from the shows I watched before, as I have no other information about the man. But it was fun to assume. Last normal roll. A purple ball was pulled out of the black box. Memories, Haruma Yoichi, football training. Wait. How long will the memory be? I muttered. I reread the document and discovered I could hold on to the memory for an indeterminate amount of time. I will check this out later. I threw the matter to the back of my mind after storing the memory someplace safe. Next. High quality roll, please. I announced, keeping the final prize for last. Tada asterisk. I could hear the sound of the prize inside the box rearranging itself. I inserted my hand and pulled out a red ball. Talent, Edna mode, fashion. Edna? Why does this feel like that dwarf ant? I muttered. The talent would be helpful for me in creating my own clothes or if I want to create my own clothing line in this world, which was something I needed to take some time to think about. The last roll makes me quiver in excitement. Special category roll, please. Tada asterisk. The balls inside the box were rearranged for the last roll in the session. I put my hand inside the box and rummaged, carefully feeling each ball. I procrastinated for a few minutes, just changing my decision from one ball to another before I finally decided to pull out a golden ball. Gold! Yes! I screamed in excitement as I hurriedly read the writings on the ball. Special ability. Mayhatsum. Machinery. Oh. A machinery-related prize. Nice. Finally finished my roll for today. I put the file back in the box, covering the lottery hole connected to the afterlife. The last gacha category, the negative gacha, needed me to receive the negative karma of the afterlife member in exchange for a roll. A negative gacha has the minimum red quality roll in the lottery. However, Edward decided to use the negative gacha once he understood how the karmic system works. He took time to reread the documents, but the stacks of paper were too many for him to read in only one session. Now, I simultaneously couldn't wait for tomorrow and wanted tomorrow to not come. Tomorrow is Sunday, so I have another day before school. But my home life improvement makes me shudder as I would have to work very hard tomorrow to make my home into a place worth living. The white space soon disappeared and placed me back into the mortal world, where I could continue my dream of flying on top of a spaceship. Although I read the document carefully, the gacha excitement caused me to forget about a tiny little detail inside the file of something I had already read. I have a good roll today because of the positive karma I had before I spent all of it away. The file read, when the negative karma was higher than the positive karma, the owner of the karma would be riddled with bad luck until the next session where he collected enough positive karma to surpass the negative one. And I'd used up all of my positive karma during the rolls. I would have to stay that way until the next session when they tally my karma points. The following day came quickly. I woke up at 8 a.m., unlike the previous Edward, who'd liked to sleep in and woke up around noon. Living and caring for an elder for a while, I developed the habit of waking up and starting my day early. My teenage body woke up healthily, but I don't care anymore. The longing to meet up with Noni in the morning almost pushed me down into a depression, but my OCD caused me to get out of bed to finish my improvement around the house. The moment I stood up from the bed, the assault came. Taking a bottle of water from my nightstand, I decided to drink some water to ease the headache. I didn't notice a few drops of water falling into my pants while drinking. My head, so last night was real? I muttered as I was suddenly assaulted by countless pieces of information about machinery, chess, and fashion. My fashion knowledge also included interior designs, so the sight of my room after that caused me to get sick in the stomach. Sue? Uncultured. I muttered. I also instinctively hate capes, so I guess that Edna was the Edna I thought of. Mayhatsum's machinery ability allowed me to bring my ideas to life, but at the risk of an explosion. I need to be careful in using her special ability later. Oh! I exclaimed after I saw my dad in his ship captain's uniform standing in front of my bedroom door as I wanted to walk out. Oh! Ed! You woke up early today. Ted stammered awkwardly as it's been a while since he talked to his son in his sober state. He has a big beer belly and a height of 1.85 meters tall. Some of his hair had turned gray, especially at the side of his head, as he was almost 45 this year. Yeah, I have some stuff to do. I looked at the man suspiciously as I knew he would go to work during daybreak on the weekends. Did you get fired? I asked him. What? No. Ted was taken aback. I'd taken only the afternoon cruise today and thought we could hang out in the docks like we did before. Referring to my memories, I knew that Edward, that is me, would go to the docks with my mother and father on the weekends, even following along the cruise ride sometimes. But after Mom ran away, I stopped spending some time with my family. As I didn't respond, Ted started to backpedal hurriedly. Of course you don't have to if you don't want to. Seeing his sincerity, I sighed inwardly. Okay. Let's go. But I need $100 after this. Ted didn't mind about the money one bit. He also knew that Edward had taken $200 from the emergency cash to buy some groceries and some stuff for the house that he forgot to take care of. It's fine. I narrowed my eyes at him for the easy answer. Suddenly, I blurted out, you should ask me what I'm going to use it for. What if I buy drugs with the money? I don't even know why I do that. Maybe Edward's resentment toward his father was bubbling up to the surface, and now I'd received the brunt of it. Ted was stunned, and I noticed that his eyes started to blink at a different frequency from one another. Oh. That's why Phil calls him Ticky. He has a lot of tics. I thought secretly. Are you going to buy drugs with the money? Ted asked with a stammer. I chuckled at him as I was the one who was currently parenting my supposed parent in this world. No. I don't. I need to buy some tools to fix the front lawn. I answered honestly. Ted broke out into a broad smile and said, okay. I will give it to you on the docks after I get some cash from the ATM. Let me take a bath first, I said. It was my habit to shower in the morning, but the previous Edward needed to improve his hygiene. Ted was confused, but suddenly he saw my healthy state on my pants and came to a conclusion of his own. I understand, son. Take your time. Also, you've grown up now. Ted said and patted my shoulder. I looked at him confusingly and then finally noticed my healthy state and some wet spots on my pants. Wait. No. I didn't. I screamed, but Ted had already sniggered away. Chapter 5, Haven't I Always Been Unlucky? In the kitchen. After I took a shower and changed into a new shirt, I took out ciabatta bread, some bacon, American cheese, 2 eggs, melted some butter, and took out a hot sauce bottle from the fridge. Finally, being in the kitchen didn't bother me anymore after cleaning it up yesterday. There are some areas that could be improved, but I would do that later. Sit down. I'm going to make an egg salad sandwich, I said to my dad. We can just eat on the pier, Ted replied, seeming uncomfortable in the kitchen in this house. Who says I'm going to make one for you? I replied playfully as I heated up the grill and put bacon on it. The bacon started to sizzle on the grill, and the smell filled the air. Ted watched Edward cooking silently. He got the melted butter on the cut ciabatta bread and put it on the grill, cracked 2 eggs open, and put cheese on the eggs when they were done. Edward closed the egg with cheese using a lid to melt the cheese more quickly. He put the ready bacon on the bread before he put the eggs on top of the bacon. To top it off, Edward puts 2 dashes of hot sauce on top of the eggs. Not too much, only 2 small drops. It would be easier to taste the cheese if it's less. /N, recipe from Harley Quinn sandwich. When did you learn to do all of this? Ted asked. He couldn't shake the horrible feeling inside of him that he had been neglecting his son for a long time and didn't even know what to do now. I cook sometimes, I said while putting the sandwich inside a wrapper before I cut it in half. One for me? Ted asked hesitatingly while smiling. I stared at him for a few seconds before giving him one. Ted took a bite out of what he considered his son's original recipe, as he never saw a sandwich like this before. Oh. My God. Ted widened his eyes in excitement as the flavor exploded in his mouth. It's so good. I smiled as I watched Ted devour the sandwich in just a few seconds while I only got 2 bites out of it. His eyes moved toward the sandwich in my hands after he finished his. No. This is mine, I said hurriedly. However, the bottom of the wrapper that I wrapped nicely opened up, causing some bacon to fall on my shirt, staining it. I won't take it. Don't worry, Ted said reassuringly. However, his hungry eyes caused me to be wary about it. I used a napkin to wipe off the stain, but it wouldn't come off. Guess I have to change again. I quickly finished my sandwich while I prepared a cup of coffee. You bought coffee too? Ted asked in astonishment. Yeah. How do you like your coffee? With milk or black? I asked. Black, Ted replied. I poured him a cup of coffee from the Italian brand coffee I found in the grocery store yesterday. It was the same coffee Noni, Granny, always drank before she got her stroke. I took my coffee with some milk because of my childish taste buds which irked me. This is good. I guess we don't need to have breakfast outside, Ted said. I don't think that it's already enough for you, I said, looking at Ted's bulging stomach. He was embarrassed by my gaze and replied with a stutter, I think this is fine. We should go now. As my dad and I walked outside the house, the sight of the lawn put me back in a bad mood. I swear I will clean this all up today. Come on, Ed, Ted called me from the car. I'm coming, I replied and entered the car's front seat, sitting next to the driver. So, Ed, have you thought about what you're going to do for your birthday party next month? Ted asked while they were stuck in traffic. Why are there a lot of people going to the pier? I replied, not answering Ted's question. For a kid, the prospect of a birthday party and gifts may excite them, but it was too childish for me now. They are going to the farmer's market, I guess, Ted replied. He thought that his son was a bit uncomfortable with bringing up the topic as he hadn't celebrated Edward's birthday with him for 2 years. Farmer's market? I muttered. Can we take a look? I thought. Never mind. Let's go take a look, Ted said a bit sadly. But we need to finish before 10 a.m. I glanced at the clock, and it was 9:16 a.m. now. It's okay. I just want to see what it looks like. I always saw a farmer's market scene in television series before, but I had never actually visited one. Ted quickly parked the car, and we entered the farmer's market. Ted's captain uniform felt out of place here, earning him a few second glances from the vegans and people with same-sex partners. Further away from where Edward and Ted were walking. "Oh my God, Mitch, look." Cam pointed at the family duo from afar. "That is so cute." A father brings his son to the farmer's market before work. "Isn't that adorable?" Mitchell raised his head from the vegetable stand and turned toward the father-son duo's direction. "Cam. It's obvious the dad didn't want to come here. You're being skeptical." "I'd like to think after we, whisper, come back from Vietnam with the cargo, normal voice, you will try to be more positive." "Okay, please stop referring to our baby as cargo." "What else am I supposed to say? You banned me from using the word baby. "That's because you keep bringing it up to everyone," Mitchell said exasperatingly. He had a secret. He'd never told his family about him trying to adopt a baby. Every time Cam brought up the topic, his nerve was instantly dialed to 11. He needed to ensure that no one knew about it. Suddenly, a voice sounded from behind Mitchell. "You guys are having a baby?" I asked unconsciously. I was walking to the vegetable stand when I accidentally heard the conversation between Cam and Mitch. "So that means I'm here before the pilot starts." "Why? Do you think two guys couldn't have a baby?" Cam said defensively while getting up in my face. Ted narrowed his eyes at Cam, wanting to step in, but his son covered it. "How do you get that from a question? It's not like I'd asked it rudely." I blurted out. "What is wrong with me today?" Cam realized that he had jumped to conclusions. "I'm sorry. It's been a tumultuous time for us." Even Mitchell nodded at the side. "Sorry. Usually, people will instantly judge us when we bring it up." Cam added, "Yeah." And added with the look, "You're going to hell," as they do so. "It's okay. I don't mind it. Congratulations on your new baby," I said politely. Ted suddenly realized who Mitch was. "Aren't you Phil's brother?" "Brother-in-law. I'm Claire's brother." Mitchell replied puzzledly and shook hands with Ted. "And who might you be?" "I am Theodore Newgate. I live a few streets away from Phil," Ted said. "Ah, I see. Nice to meet you then," Mitchell replied. "By the way, not many people can look good in a uniform, but you do," Cam added. Ted and Cam introduced themselves while I studied their apparel. Ah, my fashion talent is kicking in. I saw a few things that could have been improved, although the couple tried hard to dress perfectly following the occasion they were in. "Ed. We need to go," Ted said while looking at his watch. Mitch and Cam were cooler than he thought but needed to be on the pier at 10:15 a.m. because he planned to bring Edward on a boat ride this morning before he went to work. "By the way, where did you buy your pants?" I said while studying Mitchell's pants. "It's very nice and stylish." Mitchell beamed up and said shyly, "Really?" He even posed using his legs for me to see more of the pants. "What about my pants?" Cam interjected while posing like a model. I shrugged and replied dismissively, "They are all right." Cam was offended by that statement while Mitchell laughed at him. Mitch and Cam commentary. Mitch said, "I don't get along with many boys, but Edward is different." Cam pursed his lips as he was offended, "Maybe to you." Mitchell rolled his eyes and patted Cam's shoulder. "Wasn't that you who invited a minor to go shopping with us, just to prove that you have a taste in clothes?" End commentary. "You know, if you love these pants, we can bring you to the boutique that Mitchell got them from," Cam said. Mitch widened his eyes and tried to salvage the situation, but I thought, why not? "Sure. I am not free today, but if you have time tomorrow, you can pick me up after school." "Sure. It's a date," Cam said happily. I widened my eyes as I heard the word date. Even Ted smiled uncomfortably hearing that. Cam's eyes shook, and he became flustered. "You know what I mean," he said hesitatingly. Mitch and Cam commentary. Mitchell stared at Cam while he avoided Mitchell's eyes. After the farmer's market, my dad brought me into his leisure ship on the pier. "It's been a while, huh, son?" Ted said while he was holding the steering of the ship. Behind the wheels, his awkwardness, problems, and even tics disappeared, showing me his rare capable side. "Yeah," I replied as I watched the sea. The sea view calmed me down. When I woke up this morning, I remembered that I died pretty recently too. The lottery, shopping, cleaning the house. I've been keeping myself busy to avoid being swept away by my new reality. "Ed, are you mad at me?" Ted suddenly asked, breaking the silence. "Why would I be mad at you?" I replied. I already knew that what happened 2 years ago wasn't my dad's fault. The previous me didn't think the same, though. He felt that his dad was to blame for his mom running away from their family. Even if that was true, Ted stayed behind. He had to take many more jobs to sustain the family as the divorce fucked his financials, but he tried his best to be there for Edward. Although the house was neglected, he bought Edward his clothes, prepared stuff for his school, and tried to be there for Ed the best way he could. Ted didn't reply. Both the father-son duo silently enjoyed the view before the son got a bit naughty. "Dad, are you never going on a date?" I asked. Ted widened his eyes and almost spit out his drink as I calculated the perfect moment to ask the question. "Why so suddenly?" Ted asked in a panic. "I don't know. It's been a while. You can move on, you know. I won't blame you for it." "Ed." Ted tried to stop me from continuing. "I know that you're a man too. Move on. Dating, one-night stands, or going to bars. Find someone for you too," I said teasingly. Ted widened his eyes in horror as his son continued speaking. "I know models like to rent boats. So, enjoy yourself with 1 or 3 of them. Okay. Okay. Just stop," Ted said and quickly turned his boat around. "There is a new lady on the block. Her name is Desiree. She is sexy and also a divorcee. You can try to swoop in. EDDD. I laughed at my dad's reaction, and the turmoil inside my heart soothed a bit. After the cruise, I took a bus home with stuff I bought at the farmer's market. I put them into the fridge after I got home. After having a simple lunch, I checked the garage for tools to clean up the house. Insert 2009 greatest music here. Ladder. Check. Lawn mower. Check. Gloves. Check. I removed the ladder and cleaned up the rain drain near the roof. I noticed that a busybody blonde lady was watching me from afar, but I ignored her, thinking she was some Karen walking around the street. Ew. I found a bird carcass in the drain along with a nest. I quickly cleaned up the gutter and tied up all the garbage in a black plastic bag. Why didn't I get a cleaning gacha last night? My work will be done so much faster with it. I whined as I did my job. My rate of cleaning was fast for a teenager. However, I still needed more. After scouring the front lawn for solid objects, I went to the garage to start the lawnmower. However, after pulling the startup rope a few times, I found the lawnmower was totally broken. Phew, I guess being in used for 2 years broke it. Suddenly, my instinct was telling me to open up the lawnmower. Ah! Special talent. Come forth, I said and cringed at myself after. I took out my dad's tool and started studying the lawnmower's mechanism. I see. The rotor is blocked, I muttered with oil stains on my glove. After a few adjustments, the lawnmower finally turned on. Nice, I exclaimed and started to mow the grass on the front lawn and the backyard. The backyard was a little bigger, so I needed extra time to do so. The tall grass there was dying as the sprinklers were broken. There were a few flower pots near the door, so I needed to clean up all that. I took out my dad's spanner and fixed the sprinkler mechanism on the front lawn quite efficiently. It'll take my dad $500 to fix it by a professional. I will only charge him half price later. After cleaning it all up, it's already time for dinner. I saw the sky darken, but the unfinished job put a bad taste in my mouth. The house looked so much better now. However, it still needs a lot more fixing. There's some ivy growing on the side of the house that really bothered me. It would take me another 2 hours to clean it up if I started, and I was seriously contemplating it. Okay. That's enough for today. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded behind me, making me feel déjà vu with yesterday's encounter with Phil. But this time, the voice was that of a woman. I turned and saw Claire hugging her sweater while holding a Tupperware in her left hand. "Claire?" I blurted out unconsciously. "Mrs. Dunphy," Claire said sternly. I gulped and saw Luke and Phil waving at me from afar, trying to catch up with Claire. "Why are you here?" I asked. "I see you cleaning up your lawn this afternoon, so I don't want to bother you. But you keep continuing until evening, and it's making me a bit worried," Claire said. "Hey, Ed." Phil greeted as he and Luke walked over. "Dude. You're crazy. Everyone in the neighborhood is watching. Some even bet when you're going to stop cleaning," Luke shared, but Claire hurriedly closed his mouth with her palm. "I see," I replied, unbothered by the gawking of my neighbors. The house was in a total wreck and people's interest was aroused when I started cleaning it. "Ed. Have you eaten dinner yet? Do you want to have dinner with us?" Phil offered. "No. I was thinking of cooking something simple for tonight. Maybe an Alfredo," I replied. "I already bought the ingredients to cook it in the market today." "Sweetie. You're pushing yourself too hard." "Wait, is that?" Claire said anxiously, and she suddenly grabbed my arm. "Sweetie. You're bleeding, and you don't even notice it." "I noticed it," I replied. Claire was flabbergasted and asked, "So why don't you stop and clean it up?" "It's just a small nick." The bleeding had already stopped, I replied casually. That seemed to be a mistake as it pushed Claire into a full-blown angry mom mode. Despite her objections, Phil quickly calmed her down and pushed her to the side. "Edward. You need some rest. Go inside and take a bath. I'll wait for you at my house," Phil said calmly while smiling. "It's really okay, Mr. Dunphy. I just want to lie down after this. Like you said, I need rest." I suddenly realized that I'm exhausted. I avoided the awkward dinner scene splendidly. "No." Claire suddenly interjected. "Phil. Go to our house to get the medical kit. I will cook for him here if he doesn't want to come." Phil chuckled before he saw Claire's look of determination. "Wait. You're serious?" "Yes." "Phil, I am serious." "Go," Claire ordered. Phil and Luke flinched and ran toward their house hurriedly, leaving me alone with Claire. "And you, young man?" Claire turned her angry eyes at me. I gulped and waited for the order. "Go and take a bath," Claire said sternly. "Yes, ma'am." I saluted her and ran inside my house. Claire's commentary. She sat on the sofa, silent for a while as she hesitated to share. "That kid, Edward, and I, was similar," Claire said with glassy eyes. "Both of us grew up in a chaotic household that drives me almost crazy when I see things aren't in order. And now, I see that he is going through the same thing I did." The scene cuts to Claire preparing a fettuccine Alfredo for Edward as he has all the ingredients in the fridge. Even watching Edward arranging his stuff together caused Claire to choke up. "Claire, and there is no way I will let him be the new me. I wonder if I can do something about it." Luke and Phil commentary. "Luke, Mom really wants Edward to eat her cooking." "Phil, I know, right?" Laugh. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.